This is airflow at American Heritage Museum. Look behind me, so many people join the Women in Aviation event.
Good headwind, so it might be a little tricky on the stick. That lift, you can see.
Oh, I love it.
Something that mystifies. Right, we landed.
Hi!
Carrie. I'm the president of the Boston chapter of Women in Aviation International, and I wanted to start out by thanking everybody for joining us here today for Girls in Aviation Day.
Here it comes down the runway. He's probably going to be off the ground by the time he reaches midfield. And sure enough.
What are they doing?
Virtual reality painting.
Painting?
Yep. Aircraft parts.
Oh!
I'm in school for aviation maintenance, and this is a tool that we use at school to teach students how to paint. So I brought it so the kids can have a little bit of fun.
This is a Civil Air Patrol. We focus on emergency services, cadet programs, aerospace education. A lot of what we do is days like today, like outreach towards the public. And we look for people who are lost, anywhere between a lost aircraft, a lost hiker, a lost boat. We have aircraft we can actually go up and help find those people. It's all a volunteer organization, members like myself, young as 12, all the way up to our oldest members being well up to their 90s. It's all an effort that we're a part of.
So thank you for coming out and celebrating International Girls in Aviation Weekend. It was incredible to have the different panels and all the folks we've had here to tell their stories and to inspire both boys and girls that there's a great future in aviation.
Shockingly, like many things in the world, there are not a lot of females, which means do things, girls. Be the first, be the second.
We load cargo and passengers, calculate weight and balance, and cargo restraint. And what inspired me to get into the field of aviation was I flew a lot commercially as a child to visit my grandparents out in Ohio. And I was just super fascinated by airplanes. The window seat was my seat, and it still is to this day.
I want to see it fly back.
Those of you that don't know, the C-5 is the largest airplane in the Air Force. It can carry 848,000 pounds for takeoff weight, and it has a height limitation of 162 pounds, which basically means we can load anything on that plane that you could possibly think of. So some of the coolest things that I've loaded are helicopters. We can fit, I think, like 5 or 6 helicopters on the C-5. I've loaded school buses, fire trucks, what else? Oh, we load a lot of boats for the Navy. I've done that a lot. So yeah, those are some things that you'd never think would go onto an airplane, but I've got to see them fly all around the world.
Isabel, what was it like flying the Waco?
It was amazing. It was really cool. It was different than a Piper Warrior, like the picture was out much higher. Yeah, it was really cool.
Good. Hopefully you can get that in your logbook.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
One thing I think is really interesting about aviation is I would say the skills that we need are probably very similar about all the women up here. And I think finding confidence is probably the first thing. I could list all the you need to go to school, you need to do this, but really working in a line of work that I think every woman up here could have answered the same thing Mary did, saying a lot of us were probably the only one or not having a lot of women around us. So have that confidence in yourself that you can do that. I will also say on a skills level, we mentioned STEM, really having the ability to understand math, science, technology from an early age, I think is something that you can give yourself a leg up, but it also means that you can get into it later as well.
Struck her. She was the first woman pilot.
As an FAA aviation medical examiner, you're tied to where the FAA authorizes you to practice. So it's this job where once you get chosen to do it, you go and do your training in Oklahoma City at their big FAA center, which has like their water survival course and their pool inside, and you get to see how the inside of the government FAA works and all their little rules and how they do things. And once you do the training, they give you permission to work as an FAA doctor, but it's only at one address. So they come in and they inspect and they make sure that you have all of the equipment that you need to check vision and color vision and blood pressure and all the things that pilots have to get checked some of them have to get medical exams every 6 months. And when you do the exam, you sign the paper, you're saying that you're doing it there. There have been some people who might be a little nefarious trying to do the exams out of the back of a car or meeting pilots on the road somewhere. So that is not allowed. It's very specific. You can only do it where the FAA gives you permission to do it. So, it's the government. They like to control things, which is okay. It works out fine. The pilots know where to find me. I do have a couple of them who come from, once there's some pilots here, once who you meet the aviation medical examiner that you like and you trust and you feel comfortable talking to, you never want to lose them. This is what my husband tells me as a pilot. And then some of the pilots who see me tell me this. So I've got people who fly to see me from all over the world. People come from California. Lots of people come from Maine and Vermont. The furthest is South Africa. She comes to see me every year.
I feel like challenges are different throughout stages of your life. So getting qualified, becoming a pilot, going through all those rigors are one type of challenge, and you'll go through it. And the biggest thing I can tell people is you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days. If you think every day you're gonna just nail it and be the best, that's great, and I love the confidence, but you're gonna have hard days. You have to put in the work, and you just have to keep persevering, because that's how we get better. And you don't get better if you don't constantly challenge yourself to that line and push through it. And then as life goes on, you add spouses, kids, family, and those are different challenges where you're navigating multiple careers that you're trying to make it work with whatever your choice is. And so these are just parts of things you have to think, what's important to me, what am I willing to compromise on, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to do what's best for you and what's important for that challenge relationship at a time.
Especially in some of these careers where they're traditionally a bit more male dominated. I wish I found my confidence and voice earlier in my career, right? The more confident, experienced me wishes I could tell the more junior me to take a seat at the table, find your voice. Early in my career, or even in school, right? WPI, male dominated. I would leave a lot of classrooms or meetings feeling I had something to say and I wish I said it, and I would kind of beat myself up about it. But find that voice, right? If you're there, it doesn't matter if you're the most experienced person, you're the youngest person, you're a female, whatever, you're there because we all provide a different perspective, right? People bring different perspectives, different values, different experiences they can share, even up here, right? I'm not in aviation, I'm not a pilot, but I have a different perspective than these women, and there's value in that. So just finding that your voice, right? Everyone has something interesting and valuable to say, and take a seat at that table.
Big round of applause for the 1933 Waco UIC.
Things happen in life. And you heard also in my story that I was a very young age when I decided I wanted to be a pilot, and my whole life was about it. That's all I wanted to do. You ask all my high school friends, they're like, all we know is she wanted to fly. So it was a pretty big day to get told that I wasn't ever going to do that again. And I, took the time to be emotional about it, but the Navy looked at me and said, you have 60 days to figure out if you want to stay in, and if you do, what do you want to do? And I guess part of this story, find an amazing mentor. It is never too early to find women and men in your life that you trust, that when that phone call comes of life doesn't go as you want it to, you can pick that phone up and know that no matter what state you're in, you can call them. And I found one of those when I was at the Naval Academy, and I called my mentor. She was one of the first females in the Navy. And she said, get on a plane, bring a bottle of wine. Don't do that at your age, but I was older. Bring a bottle of wine and a notebook, and we're gonna figure this out. And I sat down with her for 2 days, and we mapped out what I wanted to do and how I felt, and she helped me kind of find my way, which is how I kind of I found out that, the weather was something I actually really found interesting when I was in the squadron, and it was something that I had just kind of found a passion for without even realizing it. So we set some goals, we figured out what I needed to do to get into that career change, and we executed. And so I think today I tell people that being taken out of the cockpit was the most amazing thing that happened in my life. It was some of the biggest growth that I've ever had. I have an incredible family that I never would have met if it hadn't happened. So moral of the story, life doesn't always go as we want. I think there's two things: embrace what you have when you have it, and just enjoy every minute of it and pour yourself into things that you love when you do. And if they do come to an end, whether you want them to or not, embrace whatever change it's going to bring. Bloom where you're planted. I had that written on my desk, and I had the chance to embrace it or to not embrace it. And I think when I had that mindset shift and just decided that I was going to make my life what I wanted it to be, it was just so incredible.
Rob, what's your airspeed now?
Search and rescue duty station, 24 hours, there's a crew, at least one crew on, depending on your setup. So you have a pilot, a co-pilot, and then you have a rescue swimmer and a similar kind of to a loadmaster, but we call them flight mechanics, and they do our pendulum and they do all the hoisting. And so we will come on duty. So we normally work Monday through Friday, normal, let's say we do like a 3 because we do 24-hour shifts, normally twice a week. So you come on, for us it was a 2:30 in the afternoon relief. You come on, you relieve, you talk about the weather. We go for a training flight either in the afternoon or evening, and then we'll have dinner, catch up on any work, go to bed, but you're always on a 30-minute SAR launch. So if an alarm goes off at whatever time, we normally, as a PIC, you run up, you get all the information, and the rescue swimmer and the flight mech will go pre-flight, pull out the aircraft, and then the co-pilot runs down and starts it. And then we get in, we'll brief in the aircraft as we're doing all our last minute checks, and we take off for whatever that rescue that we're going for. And then we come back. Whenever it's done, we can fly up to 8 hours of flight time. So that can go for a lot, like a 12-hour duty day of actual working, refueling, and doing prep time. If we find the person, we deliver them to a hospital. If we don't have enough fuel to make it to the hospital, then sometimes we'll come back and meet an ambulance at an airport. And then we can come back, sleep, and we normally, if you we call it bag out. If you do all your flight time, you'll sleep there, rest a little bit, and then go home.
What does it say right here? Write your name using the phonetic alphabet. So what's the first one? Okay.
They do time out at 55, 56, you have to retire, which is actually amazing because then you're young enough to be able to enjoy a whole nother part of your life, and you get a government pension to go along with it. So air traffic controllers, that's when they're not in the military. Was your sister in the military?
Yeah.
So also air traffic controllers have very strict medical standards that they have to comply with, and if they can't meet those medical standards, if they have an unexpected medical condition or have to take a medication that's not authorized by the FAA, for instance, then they can't meet the medical standards and they cannot function as an air traffic controller. So sometimes they have to, unfortunately, leave the career field or work in an allied career field using their experience, but then they cannot work as an air traffic controller anymore.
I was just wondering what your experience was like.
Every single person who's going to college should think about ROTC, because one, it's an amazing experience to understand something about the military in a way that you can't experience or understand unless you're in it. I mean, like any of us have been in the military. It's not ever what you imagine. And then when you get in there, you're like, oh my goodness, okay. But you're also aware of things on a different level. And so ROTC is a super way to experience that without the huge commitment, and understand whether you think that a military life could be something that you want to include along your career path. Also, it's really easy to qualify for Air Force or any ROTC scholarships if you've got anything that resemble decent grades, and let someone else pay for college. Like, that's a really good idea.
Harriet Quimby, who was the first licensed woman pilot in the United States on August 1st, 1911. And a little over a month later, on Memorial Day, on September the 4th, 1911, on a moonlit night, she flew 7 minutes and made $1,500, which was quite a lot of money in those days. And she also became the first licensed woman pilot to fly across the English Channel on April 16, 1912, but she didn't get any news media simply because the Titanic sank the night before, and she was upstaged by an iceberg. She flew Blérios and those that look like Blérios from 1909 era to 1911. Not that she flew in 1909, but she flew those type aircraft. And this Blériot weighs about 740 pounds. And to get on into the cockpit, you go on the left-hand side behind the wing, and there's a wooden foothold, and you get on it like a horse, and then you crawl like a monkey until you get up to the wires, and you duck under the wires, and you slide into the front seat. The engine is on this is a Continental. The original engines on these aircraft from 1909 to 1912, and furthermore were flown with Anzani engines and GNOME, G-N-O-M-E. And there's an over-camber, under-camber wing on this aircraft, over-camber, under-camber tail section on this aircraft. And there are no seat belts. There are on this particular one, but in the day they did not use seat belts. You can, it takes full power everywhere you go. The wheels are castering, they move back and forth like this, and so on takeoff, if you hit a bump, now you're headed in another direction, but it only takes about 150 feet to get off the air.
Go like that.
Roger, American 12 cleared mine on direct Modesto.
National Aviation Academy in Concord, Massachusetts. Gorgeous.
Understand that it's going to be challenging, and to forgive yourself that it might take time for you to learn the material, and that everybody learns at a different rate. I think it's really important to have grace and be able to understand that it's okay to get something wrong, because you're going to learn from it. If you don't make those mistakes while you're in training, say for this job, then what tools do you have moving forward to help you when you get in that situation again? You can have someone tell you what can happen, but for you to actually have it happen from something you might have done, and then for it to be corrected while you're in training, I think that's really important. And to be able to forgive yourself when you make a mistake, and not so that you're not pulling it into your next training session, to let it go, learn from it and let go. That's really important. I think another thing is that you got to be able to work hard. It's really important that if you set a goal for yourself, it may not happen right away. It's going to take time. So you got to be able to set your sights on what your goal is and be able to go through all the steps, and some of them are harder than others as well, and be okay with that. Be okay that it might take a little longer than you thought it was going to. I think it's really important in this job also to be able to say, well, I feel stressed by this. This is really overwhelming to me, and not quit. You cannot quit. You got to keep going. If you want that goal, you got to make sure that you work really hard toward it. And no matter how hard the day might be, know that tomorrow you're going to do even better. So it's really important in this job to have that as well, to just be able to fight through the difficult times that you might have as you pick a different career field, and something the content might be hard or might be difficult in your training day, and not quit. Know that eventually you're going to accomplish your goal.
It is set up to have a stretcher in the back.
Because my boss believed in me, the other pilots believed in me, I could have walked away and said, no, I'm not ready yet. Believe in yourself. If someone believes in you, then you've got to believe that you can do it too.
Excellent.
So I know that wasn't your question. It's never too early to start. Being on shift for 12 hours or 14 hours, we meet as a group, we talk about our day, we check the weather, what's the farthest distance that we can go. But when a call comes in, because then we're just waiting for the phone to ring. When a call comes in, you don't want to be, oh, where's my helmet? Where's my coat? Because we are expected to be on top of the weather for that 12-hour shift, get out there, do a walk around safely, get off the ground, usually within 7 minutes, unless it's IFR, and then all that goes out the window. But be organized, whether it's in your studies or anything that you do. It makes all the difference of being able to succeed.
Esther, questions to you. Back in the early 90s, we happened to have at an air show in South Weymouth, Massachusetts, the last one before they closed the base. We had a pilot that was a C-130 pilot, and he brought us on to up in the cockpit of the C-5B. So my question is, what versions of the C-5 are they up to now?
The C-5M, and then we still have some A models, I think 2, maybe 3. And then there's also one called the Scumbird that does like astronomy type missions. They don't have a troop compartment, so they have like a huge, much bigger cargo compartment than ours. It looks the same on the outside, but the inside's built a little different. So we still have 3 different models, but it's mostly C-5M.
The difference between flying today and flying yesterday. So IFR is flying under instrument flight rules. So there's visual flight rules, which means you can see the ground, you can see the next town, you can see the church, and instrument flight rules means the weather is lower, the clouds are lower. It can be either clouds or visibility is low. You might not be able to see in front of your hand. You can't see the trees, you can't see the town, so you're flying on instrument. The rules are a lot more strict. You have to take off. We do have some approaches from hospitals and all that, but normally you're taking off from an airport and landing on an airport. The whole time you're flying, you're looking at the instruments so that you can navigate from point to point.
So that's how they number the airports. You can have 2 airplanes taking off.
I feel like the news, everybody has seen, some of the stuff that's happened. I feel like it's actually brought more attention to some of our fatigue mitigation. With having the shifts and doing the midnight shifts, it's 24/7, 365. So I feel like that has brought attention to potentially giving us more rest. And that's something that has been a very big issue for us for a while. And that the things that have happened have had people go back to the drawing board and say, what can we do to mitigate this? What can we do that we're not doing? The FAA has been looking, the union has been looking at a lot of different things that maybe our schedules this year are going into 2025, we have to have more hours between shifts than we used to. So I think that has brought attention to that. Our staffing shortages as well. A lot of us have had to work extra shifts, and I think that has also being addressed more aggressively than it may have been in the past. So there's some good things, positive steps forward that are coming from some of the things that have happened over the last a year or so.
Fly, and they'll take off, and as soon as they cross that intersection, you can clear this one for takeoff. Although we won't get into wake turbulence.
Regarding where your life might take you in aviation or in what job you decide, but if you want to be a controller or load master or you want to be a pilot, being able to take feedback is really important. That's something I should have spoke to on one of my initial questions. You're not going to have all the answers whether you're starting out or whether you've been in the job for 30 years. You're always going to grow. Even at being in the job for almost 25 years, I learn something new every day, and I'm always open to constructive feedback so that I can continue to be the best version of not only myself, but myself as a professional. So that's really important as you start on your professional journey, to really be open to that, and to know that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. No one expects you to. So that's something to really put kind of in your pocket moving forward. If someone's giving you feedback, take it, learn from it, take what you can from it. Maybe you don't need all of it, but some of it, and you'll grow even more for the next time. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh no, did it crack? I might have to do one more, but that's okay.
So good to see you.
Good. My daughter came.
Hi.
I'm
really glad you guys made it. That's awesome.
Tell me, when did you start it?
Our chapter started in December, so we're a newer chapter of Women in Aviation International. We are all about advancing women's involvement in aviation and aerospace. Our organization has a lot of different pillars, so we have scholarships, education, professional development, networking opportunities, and of course youth outreach, which is why we're here today at Girls in Aviation Day. Membership with Women in Aviation for the Boston chapter is two parts. Part one is to become a member of our parent organization, which is Women in Aviation International, and then after you are a member of the international organization, then you're eligible to join for local chapters, and there's local chapters all over the world. I decided to organize this event because I wish that there had been something like this when I was trying to decide what I wanted to be when I was growing up, and there really wasn't anything like this out there then. And so this year is the 10th anniversary of Girls in Aviation Day, but it is our first time hosting it here at the American Heritage Museum. So the event is taking place in 33 countries, and they're expecting over 30,000 girls to attend worldwide.
Wow.
My name is Delia Fitzdaniel. Oh, I love it. It's probably one of my favorite places. It's very rare to be able to find this much history, and it's something I'm very passionate about. So, well, I do want to be in the military. That's my goal, and I think history is a big part of that. I would love to fly a plane, but you know.
To showcase, there's a few aircraft we're going to fly today, and they're linked to women in aviation. The first one's going to be the Waco UIC right behind me, and this aircraft has a very interesting history to it. We'll get more into it, but it was at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, and it was being operated by KT Flying Service, and the T in that name was Bob Tice. And he was flying the airplane that morning on December 7th, landed and was running away from the attack, was strafed by Japanese aircraft and became the first American civilian killed during the war. One of the pilots who flew for KT Flying Service was a female, Cornelia Ford. And her dad told her brothers they could never become pilots. Swear you'll never become a pilot. The dad never had the daughter swear to never become a pilot. So it was perfectly okay, because he never thought she could become a pilot. She did. And she was flying these aircraft. In fact, she was in the air and attacked on December 7th by a Japanese Zero while she's in a small light aircraft, managed to escape and land, and then became one of the very first women Air Force Service pilots, or WASP, that we know as. And volunteered, and they were moving aircraft around the country, relieving them to go overseas by doing that. They were flying targets. They were doing a lot of very important roles here in the U.S. And in fact, many of them lost their lives in the line of duty. She became the very first American female to die in the line of duty flying. It's an L5. This particular aircraft was at Okinawa during World War II. And there will be a woman later today talking about her mother who flew these as her time as a WASP. Then the AT-6 Texan, this is an advanced trainer, so all of the women who learned how to fly during the war started off in the BT-17 Spearman, which you can see one inside the hangar. as a primary trainer, and then for advanced training, they would have been an AT-6 just like this one. In fact, the museum just acquired a PT-17 Stearman that was used by the women Air Force service pilots down in Sweetwater, Texas, where they trained. You're kind of probably wondering why we have a German aircraft out, but not all female pilots during World War II were American. There was a very famous German female test pilot by the name of Hanna Reich, and she flew a lot of different types of airplanes for Nazi Germany. One of her most famous missions was flying a Fiesler Storch like this one, not this particular airplane, and she brought Robert von Grein, who was head of the Luftwaffe at the time, into Berlin while it was surrounded by the Red Army, landed by Brandenburg Gate, and then they had a meeting with Hitler to arrange the last stand of the Luftwaffe. So not all women in aviation have been great role models, maybe. She was a diehard Nazi, but she was also an amazing pioneer and quite an accomplished pilot.
So what's really neat about this particular aircraft is that the control yoke can move from the pilot to the co-pilot, so you can move it back and forth, depending on who's doing the flying. 1933 Waco UIC. The aircraft was originally completed on June 9th, 1933, delivered to its first owner, George Willis of Great Neck, New York. A few years later, after a brief personal ownership by legendary test pilot Vane Breeze, it was sold to Charles Knox and Robert Tice. These are the co-owners of K&T Flying Service. So from 1938 to 1947, K&T Flying Service operated this Waco from their base at John Rogers Field in Honolulu. Hope you can transfer to the Army and the Navy. Near Merkel, Texas. Now R670 6N, and the top speed of this aircraft is around 140. Thank you. Okinawa Combat Veteran Aircraft, very rare. Stinson Division of Vultee Aircraft Company, also known as Consolidated Vultee, in 1943. The OY-1 Sentinel was loosely derived from the civilian Stinson Model 105 Voyager. It was specifically designed for military use and made its first flight in 1941. The aircraft featured a high wing configuration and a robust structure, allowing it to operate in various terrains and challenging conditions. Takeoff power, so he'll be off the field in just a sec. Just hanging there a little bit in the air, and you can see why this plane was so popular as a reconnaissance aircraft. All right, he's on the ground. Rob flying in the OY-1 Sentinel.
Fantastic. That was honestly so much fun. It's like a ride up there. Just with a beautiful view, you can see everything. So it was great. It was awesome flying past all you guys, seeing everyone. So yeah, it was a good day.
And what's your name and what do you do?
My name's Dee Dee, or in uniform today. I'm Sergeant NWC, and I am a loadmaster on the C5M at West Dover Air Reserve Base.
Ah, so close by. Big round of applause for our military out of West planes, which is the T-6 Texan. So the North American T-6 Texan was originally developed in the 1930s, making it a valuable tool for a wide range of pilot training programs. Robbie on the radio?
She's going to try to say
7,500 feet with a rate of climb of 1,200 feet per minute. That was really, really well done.
Brave men and women who served our country went on to fly the fighters and bombers from learning into their
Elise, daughter of Rob Collins, tell me, Elise, what is it that you plan on doing with your adult life?
I kind of want to go to the Air National Guard, but actually I really do want to go to the Air National Guards.
Well, I think you're in a right channel to do such a thing. So, Elise, did you fly a little bit while you're up there?
Yeah.
You did? Good. How's the plane fly?
It's beautiful.
Is it? Yeah, it's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, it's super powerful. Just flies super nice.
So, have you done any aerobatics in this aircraft before?
No, I wish. You should hear me screaming at my dad asking if we could do like a barrel roll.
Well, eventually I think he can probably make that wish come true.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well done, Elise. Yay, Elise Collins. Wright said, "It began in the bunker, and there it shall end." There is speculation that Mama Wright had taken the cyanide capsule, hid her deodorant in the bunker, and she had taken it as part of the suicide pact with Wright. And there was a remarkable aspect of this storage is its ability to act as a short takeoff and landing aircraft. So Hitler reluctantly sent a commando to take out with the storage to collect up Mussolini and try and rescue him. Here he comes. All right, nice touchdown. Again, another round of applause for Rob and the storage. We love that aircraft. It's just a joy to fly and even cooler to see flying.
That was awesome. So my family was from Germany. I'm German. My grandfather left Germany in 1937. He was Jewish. So it's really cool to go up in that.
It's an unusual aircraft. I was watching you guys. It took all of it, what looked like just a couple hundred feet to put the plane down.
It's the shortest takeoff and landing I've ever had. You don't get that in the C5.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Mackenzie, thanks for flying with us. It was a real treat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I want to thank everyone for coming out and being a part of this event. We really, really thank you for your support, spending your good money to come here and play with us today. I hope you have a chance to come back again. Go through the museum.
I'm very happy to be here, and it's a great museum.